And we are live. Um, do you want to start us off with an intro to you and your books? Because you will do it much better than I will.
Okay. I'm MK Farrar and I write crime and psychological thrillers. I've got about 30 books out now, I think, at last count. I'm mainly writing a series called D.I. Erica Swift, which is currently 13 books long, or at least it will be in s- this month. Yeah, 23rd of this month. Sorry, my daughter is talking very loudly downstairs and just completely distracted me. Um, yeah, but yeah, I've been writing for as long as I can remember, but writing crime for I think about 7 years, something like that.
I started off by reading The Eye Thief.
That's
That
right.
didn't
Yeah.
come out well. And that is it's quite gruesome in places.
It is. I mean, I sort of hope the title would give that away to warn people off. Yeah, when I first started writing, I was writing horror, and I think I've definitely still got some of those elements that come through with my crime writing.
Um, did you? I quite like the start of it though because I'm trying not to give any spoilers away, but I don't think it is because it's the opening. You kind of open with someone like on their own
Hmm.
at night, don't you? Like walking
Yeah.
along, who you think is going to be the victim, and then there's like a little clever twist, and I quite liked
Hmm.
that. I thought I was reading, and I was like, this is really like,
Yeah, that is something I've done a few times now, I must admit, to kind of lead the reader in one direction and then turn it around.
is that hard to write? You know, when you start, did you sort of see that when you were setting off, or
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah, I definitely knew where that chapter was going as far as what was going to happen. Um, I don't plot particularly when I'm writing, but yeah, definitely a few chapters ahead. I definitely know what's coming.
that's good. What are you working on at the moment then? So you got so
So I
many in the Erica Swift series. So what are you?
Yeah, so I've literally just finished sort of proofing and editing and everything, book 13, which is The Wordsmith and happens to be about a crime author. Um, so that's literally in the sort of final processes of being formatted and everything like that, ready for uploading very, very soon. And then that will launch on the 23rd. And then it'll be on to book 14.
So I mean, you gave Erica quite a hard time in book one.
Yeah.
How does the series progress for her? Because she's the main protagonist, I'm guessing, all the way throughout. And
Yeah.
you're at book 13 or 14, so like, do things get a bit easier for her? Does she carry on
Oh.
having a rough time?
I'd really like to say yes, but no, no, she's still having a rough time of things, I'm afraid. Um I like writing, like I know some people say that they just want to read the crime books for the crime part, but I do tend to put quite a lot of my character's story into it as well, and their lives, and my main character, Erica Swift, has got a daughter who kind of grows up through the series as well. So like now she's a preteen and is about to like start secondary school, whereas in the first books she's very tiny. So there's all of that kind of thing of Erica trying to juggle motherhood with being a detective, which is obviously a very demanding job. Um, and I think real life does play a big part in in the story, and I don't think I could write the books without her going through it as well in her personal life.
Fair enough. Um, we sort of said before we went live, didn't we? I asked if I could ask you about your other pen name because you are
Yeah.
very prolific in both, aren't you? So you've got two pen names and you have a lot of books out.
Yeah, I've been writing for a really long time. So I first started publishing in like 2010. So we're looking at like 14 years now. Um, and I was writing, even before that, since I was a child, coming right up through university and everything, I was writing. So I guess I kind of always had like a lot of stuff stored, a lot of ideas, lots of things. So it's not difficult for me to write, and I write full time. So I can't imagine what I'd do if I wasn't just sitting down every day and sort of bashing out 3,000 words. And if you do that every day for years, it tends to add up to a lot of books.
So on the surface of it, when I was doing my research for you coming for the chat,
Mhm.
you look to ostensibly have two quite different things that you
Mhm.
write. You've got like the crime and then you've got your other pen name, but is there like a crossover? I'm
Yeah,
kind of curious, should
definitely.
we think of like crime merging with like sci-fi and horror and things like that, don't we? But you're sort of in your other pen name rating sort of darker romance, really.
Yeah. Yeah. So for me, the crossover is psychological thriller. So dark romance for me is a you know 80% of it is psychological thriller. It's about your bad guys, your stalkers, um your mafia boss, as my teenagers always like to laugh at me about. And they tend to be the bad guys. And so there is a lot of like kidnapping and murder and things like that, even though it's romance. That all crosses over to crime. There's just it's just a bit spicier. And obviously the relationships are much more key than what they are with the crime stories. Um,
Which one did you start your publishing journey with?
So I started as Marissa Farrar, so the romance, and I was actually writing paranormal romance at the time. So the way it kind of evolved was I started writing horror, so that was my first love, if you like. I grew up on Stephen King and all those kinds of things. Um, and then I think when my eldest daughter was tiny, I kind of thought, right, I need to take this seriously now. I need to get published. So I knew that I needed to write something that was going to be a bit more commercial than the horror, because that was really hard to get published in. So I started writing a paranormal romance, and that got picked up with a small publisher at the time, which then evolved into a series. And then I wrote paranormal romance for a good few years. And then the paranormal romance evolved into more contemporary romance, which then became the dark romance. And I juggled the two for a while. Um, but I always knew that I wanted to write psychological thrillers and crime, because that's my main go-to reading. That's generally what I pick up if I'm reading something. And so I wrote a psychological thriller and published it as MK Farrar. And I couldn't even tell you what year that was, like 2015, maybe something like that. And then it just kind of started everything, and I didn't look back. And then ever since then, I've just been juggling the two.
So what made you jump into doing like a police procedural style
So I knew that I wanted to write a
publishing?
series. And initially, I wrote a series with MA Comley, which was like a psychological thriller series, and she co-wrote with me, which was kind of like her way of giving me a step up into the genre, which was really sweet of her. Um, but it's really difficult to write series that are psychological thrillers. Like, with psychological thrillers, you tend to have a big twist at the end, and then once that twist is dealt with, it's quite hard to write a continuation of it. So we wrote the 3-book series, but then I wanted to write a series of books, and it made sense to have a detective which linked all the books together. So that's why I went and started the Erica Swift series initially. And each book is a standalone, if you like. It's each got a story, it's each got its own characters, and those can change from book to book. And it just seemed like a really good way of writing a series, but having that thread of psychological thriller in there as well. So that's what I did.
Do you have like a police consultant you work with to make sure you sort of get that bit right, or
Yeah, so when I first started the crime books, obviously there was the um, you know all those procedural things that just like terrified the life out of me, because I was just thinking, I've got no experience whatsoever of police procedures other than reading and writing. So I joined a group called Cops and Writers, which is on Facebook. I don't know, people might have heard of it, which is a really, really great group. And the leader, who is it? Leader, the organizer of the group, um, was doing consultations at the start, so he worked on the first few books for me, just to make sure that I was getting things right. And then after a few books, we kind of took the training wheels off and let me get on with it myself. But I still pop into that group all the time if I've got questions, kind of, if I don't know how something's going to go, and they're really, really helpful. So if there's any aspiring authors out there that are looking for help for the procedural side of things, I definitely recommend the Cops and Writers group.
That's good advice. It's the
Yeah.
question we often ask, like people, what advice they'd give to new authors. So it's good to hear those kind of tips. Sam's asked you if you ever fancy switching things up entirely and writing scripts or something completely new to you.
I always want to write new things. I have to restrain myself because I'm a really bad genre hopper. I think I've written a bit of everything in the past. So from women's fiction to sci-fi to post-apocalyptic, I've literally written. I think the only thing I haven't written is historical. But I'm trying to rein myself in at the moment and just kind of not fly off to write something because I've been inspired, but kind of be a bit more measured about things. But yeah, I mean, I'd really like to write more standalone psychological thrillers, but at the moment it's the crime books that are paying the bills. So that's what I'm trying to stick with.
Yeah,
Scripts, not so much. Not so much.
I was going to ask about that. Like, which sort of pen name does better?
They kind of go in ebbs and flows. So they both do great. I'm really, really happy with both of them. Otherwise, I wouldn't write them both. At the moment, the Marissa Farrar pen name's doing better. We just had a book launch recently that hit 129 in the Kindle store, which was amazing for us. But I couldn't just pick one. I think I'd just get really burnt out and very bored very quickly. So that's why I like to move between them both.
How many books do you aim to bring out a year?
I think this year I'm doing 2 crime books and I think maybe 4 or 5 of the dark romance books, but those are co-written, so I'm not writing the entire thing. I've got a co-author that I work with. So I think that's the current plan, but it might change.
How do you find writing with a co-author? Because you're obviously quite creative and
Yeah, I think my co-author that I write with now, we work really well together. This is the series that we've just released is our 3rd series, so obviously we've worked together for a long time and we know how each other works. But I think it can be quite a hard thing to balance. You need to write in a similar kind of way and be able to I guess it's a bit like a marriage. I say quite often, you can't have 2 people who are very controlling, because you'd butt heads, and you can't have 2 people who are really chilled out because then nothing would ever get done. So I kind of take on the organizational side of things, and she brings in more of the kind of emotional and romance side of things. So yeah, so we work well together, and we just bounce chapters back and forth, and we have some fun conversations as well online. We stop and always have a good chat about what we're about to write and what characters are going to do next and that kind of thing, which is always good fun.
I'm loving your comparison there and thinking about my marriage, which is 2 really awkward people who live together. Don't know how we've made it work. uh, so Sam says it's always funny when authors say they want to try something new but still end up with a body on page 2.
Yes. Definitely. I think someone's died in pretty much every book I've ever written.
Even the romances.
Well, definitely the romances, yeah.
It's that's interesting. So you said you've never done historical. Would you ever be tempted to?
Probably not, because I'd be terrified of getting something wrong. It would probably be something really stupid, like they didn't have that vegetable in such and such a year, and I could just see myself being torn to shreds for it. So yeah, I think that's definitely one that's out of my comfort zone.
I'm curious, like when you're from sort of like quite an interesting area that you've not sort of written in a like a Devon sort of Cornwall kind of.
Ah. So I
Have
have
you?
written in Devon. Yeah, so I've got a standalone psychological thriller called 21 Days that I set during the pandemic, which is set on Dartmoor. And it's an author who lives alone at the time that the lockdown happens. And it's not so much about COVID, there's no sickness in it or anything like that. It's just basically her mental health like deteriorating through lockdown and being alone in a very remote location, and believing that she's got a stalker and that she's not alone out there basically. um so yeah, so I have, and then my other series, Detective Ryan Chase, is set in Bristol, so it's not too far away, it's just up the road. And I do have plans to do something, a series down in Torquay as well, which I've only got the bare bones for at the moment, but it is kind of ruminating in my mind.
Ah, that's interesting. So, how long will they ruminate in your mind before they become something that you put on paper?
I mean, some stories years, they're literally years. I've got a whole drive full of story ideas and starts of stories where I've just kind of taken a scene and just that's come to me, and so I've just written down that scene, and then I just have to shelve it because I know that I can't write that book at that time because I've got pre-orders for other books set up. So yeah, it can be a really long time. I mean, some of them will probably never even see the light of day, but yeah, yeah, I sit on things for quite a while.
You said you started off your crime things reading, working with MA Comley.
Yeah, yeah. Mel's one of my good author friends.
Can you tell us a little bit about the series you wrote with her?
Yeah, so it's called Watching Over Me, is book one, so I've got my flashlight. Um and it is a psychological thriller. So there's three books in total, Crime After Crime. They are books that follow three different generations of women. So book one is set in the 80s, book two is set in the early 2000s, and then book three is modern day. And I can't say too much without kind of doing a huge spoiler. Um, but yeah, it basically it follows three generations of women and they all come together at the end. But yeah, it's a bit sort of domestic thrillery. Book two in particular is more domestic thriller. Book one is about a new therapist who has a boy and his father come into her office, and she can see that there's something wrong with the boy. And then it turns out the boy's mother's gone missing, and she digs in and obviously gets into lots of issues.
Sam says, have you going back to writing with someone else? Have you got any advice for anyone considering that?
um, I would say start with something small. Start with something short. Don't make any huge plans in case it doesn't work out. I'd say maybe like start with a novella or something like that, just to see how you work together. Because sometimes it's great, but I've been really lucky actually with the people that I've worked with. I haven't had any big issues or anything, but I do hear of a lot of co-authors having issues. And you're tied in together financially when you publish. And so you want to make sure that you're doing something with the right person.
That's
Like I said, it's a bit like a marriage.
yeah. So, did you know the people that you're co-authoring with for a while before you started?
Yeah, yeah, a long time. I mean, I've known Mel for as long as I can remember, and my other co-author Sky, same thing. I've just knew her for years and years and years, and we've never actually met in person, not me and Mel, me and Sky, but we just talk all the time on. I probably speak to her more than anybody else, even though we've never met in person. Um, yeah, so it's definitely, you definitely want to do it with somebody that you know and someone that you know well, and that you can trust really.
I'm like that with Sam. We have met in person now, but for a while I talked to her online more than I talked to her like anyone.
Real
If
people.
you know what I mean? Yeah,
Real
yeah.
life people.
Like my phone used to be like, you wake it up, it'd be like, "Do you want to message Sam?" Instead of like my husband.
Yeah, it is a bit like that. You do get to know, all the ins and outs of people's lives, even though we've never met in person, I don't consider her not to be a friend, if that makes sense.
Yeah, fair enough. Uh, Sarah has asked you if you got an auto by author. I call them my shut up and take my money authors. You know, the people that you'll just, it doesn't
Yeah,
matter what they
yeah.
write.
Lisa Jewell, I pretty much buy everything that she writes. SE Lines is another one that I'll automatically buy. Shalini Boland, I always buy. Kristen Hanna and Jodie Picoult. Um, there's lots. There's lots. I read a lot as well as write a lot. I'm either reading or writing, basically, when I spend my time.
I'm with you on that. I've got too many. And I add new ones all the time because you find like an author you really like, don't you? And then you just want to read anything they've written.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm doing that at the moment with an author, Jennifer Hartman, who she writes dark romance. But again, it's very psychological, thrillery, a lot of the stuff. And I'm currently working my way through her backlist.
So what are you reading? What are you reading at the moment, and what have you read recently that you'd recommend to us?
Um, One of my favorite books that I've read recently is Will Dean, Last Thing to Burn. Don't know if you've come across that one at all. Um, he's probably a must-buy author as well, to be honest. I've really enjoyed his books. The last book I read was actually Stephen King. I
Hmm.
still haven't grown out of Stephen King. We're 30 years on or something, and I'm still reading it. And that was Duma Key, which was really good. The only thing I find with Stephen King is that I think his books are about 10% too long. I always kind of get to like the last 90% and feel a bit like, okay, I'm done with it now. But I still really enjoy his books. And then the other one that I'm reading is a Jennifer Hartman book, which is June 1st, which is a kind of tabooish romance. Yeah.
Fair enough. Some saying it's been lovely becoming best friends with me. I had a baptism of fire letting her into my life. I embrace the fire. It's great. And she also says she's never read dark romance. How would you describe it as a genre?
um, I'd say that there are lots of levels. So you can have kind of like pitch black dark romance, which is the stuff that kind of gets banned off of Amazon. But you can also just have kind of the more grayish romance where it's more like the mafia kind of side of things, where it's more of a crime with romance thrown in. Um, I like it because I like the suspense and I like that. Well, because I like psychological thrillers, so I like kidnapping and the murders and all those kinds of things that you probably wouldn't associate with a romance book, but they're definitely out there.
There's a thing about people being drawn to kind of the darker aspects of life, though, isn't there? It's why people read crime, and I guess
Yeah,
it's why people like in romance people kind of like a bad boy, don't they? You know, as it's gone back in time. If you think about it, we've even got like Heathcliff and stuff in classical
yeah,
literature is not like a nice guy.
yeah. I think people who like dark romance, it's that kind of exploring something that you would never ever do in real life. Most of these people should probably be locked up for a very long time. You just would not put up with it in real life, but in fiction, it's fine, and you can, because explore that side of romance that you definitely, if someone told you to sit down, shut up, you walk out the door. But yeah, in romance, it's fine.
I think it's true, and I think that's why a lot of people like crime as well, isn't it? You just are kind of exploring stuff that you wouldn't sort of want to encounter in real life, but it's just fiction's a safe place to explore things.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I think as well, so with crime, you've got your happy ending in that generally the bad guy is caught. And in romance, you've got your happy ending in the fact that the bad guy is tamed, I guess. Um, so they're both, they've both got like this really terrible situation generally, but then it gets solved at the end. And I think that's quite cathartic as well to read, like that, that some these terrible things are happening, but it all comes out well in the end, apart from some books. But most of them is that situation.
Do you think you're genre hopping? So I've only read The Eye Thief by you so far. That doesn't mean I will be dipping back into other books. Um, but do you think the genre hopping helps you to sort of come up with like different ideas for crime? Because what I thought stood out for me in The Eye Thief was there's a lot of quite different like little twists on what you would expect in that kind of a crime book. So, I mean, there's like different plays on the victims, there's different plays on the crimes. Things didn't ever quite go how you would think it would go in like
Yeah.
traditional.
Um, I don't know, to be honest. I just kind of like I think my stories are always very character led, and I'm not, like I said, I'm not a big plotter. I do tend to just kind of follow the stories where the characters take them. So, like with the crime books, I don't always know kind of who the killer is until I'm like 80% through the book, and then it's kind of like, oh, of course, such and such did it, and then I've got to go back and change lots of chapters to make it work. Um, but yeah, no, I don't know. I don't know. I've got so many ideas that I don't kind of struggle ideas wise.
Where do you find the ideas? Do you just come up with them? Do you sort of browse the news and think, oh, yeah, I could use that? Or like
Oh,
go around like looking at places and thinking that'd be a good place to hide a body?
I think I'll get ideas literally from everywhere, from like overhearing a conversation, or like watching the news, or um, like little things like I was walking the dog the other day, and there were what are they called, license plates, car license plates, several of the same license plate that have been like dumped in a bush, and my brain starts thinking, well, what's the story behind that? Like, who's done that? Why have they done that? And um, yeah, I think inspiration is everywhere. So
You're quite good at like marketing your books as well. Like I've seen your posts that you do online, and you always have like some cool like merchandise that goes with them. How did you sort of learn that sort of side of being an author? Is that just something you're kind of
time,
really good at,
I think.
or just practice?
Yeah, I think it's just literally I've just been around for a really long time. I'm part of lot of different author groups, and I listen to what they're doing and what's working well for them, and then put my own twist on it, and launch things how I want to. I am very active on social media, so I'm active Facebook in particular, Instagram, TikTok for both names. Um, I've got TikTok shops as well, which has been brilliant as far as pushing my books, particularly the dark romance ones. Yeah, so I'm just really active. And sorry, can you hear my daughter shouting in the background? I just can you hear her? Do I need to tell her to be quiet? Because all I can hear is her shouting.
We can hear it, but it's fine. Just adds to the joy of the like live event.
Sorry, say that again.
I said it adds to the joy of being live.
And having children. This is my life. I just have noise. I'm surprised the dog isn't barking downstairs as well. That's normally what happens.
I mean, we like it when dogs and things come to visit.
It's
Yeah.
normally my cat. My cat's normally the one like standing in front of in front of the computer. Although I did do a call once, and I was downstairs in my living room, and my dog proceeded to vomit on the sofa right behind me.
Oh,
I was just
nice.
like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. It was a very embarrassing moment.
I
Hence
can't
now I'm
remember.
upstairs, so the dog isn't up here.
I can't remember who else I told this to when I was doing an author chat, but we do our parents' evenings online at my school, our
Oh
parents'
yeah.
days. And I always tell the kids that I'll give them a bonus good review if I meet their pets.
Oh yeah.
Hang
That's a
on
good
it.
idea.
Like, it brightens the day. I want to meet your dog. It's great.
She'll cause chaos. My dog is crazy. She's 3 years old, and she's just wild. So I do try and keep her downstairs when I'm.
But you ever written one of your pets or like anyone you know into one of your books?
I might have written a few people who have annoyed me in the
Mhm.
past into my books and maybe change the name slightly. I won't say who or which books in case they track them down. But yes, I have been known to do that. Not the pets though, because I'd always feel like something bad was going to happen to them, and like I couldn't do that. I can't do bad things happening to animals.
Fair enough. Do you do you struggle with coming up with names for books? Because obviously you've got a lot of books out. You said you had about 30. Is that right?
30 of the crime books, yeah,
Yeah.
and dark romance, and the other 50 maybe.
So how do you
So
come up with names? Like, I think it is hard to like. Where do you get the inspiration for names from for that many books?
so title wise, I don't generally struggle. I kind of I don't know, it just comes to me. I have the titles are fine. Character names, that's a whole different story, especially with the crime books, because there are generally so many characters, and because each book that I write in the crime series is a standalone, the character names need to be different in each book, and so I keep a big Excel file that I write all the names down, and then I can do a search to see if I've used the name before. But I'm quite sure I have. I've overlapped a few people names, but I do have a little scroll through Facebook and see if any names pop out at me and steal those occasionally. Not the full names, just like a surname or as a first name.
Do you ever have like any competitions for people to be like a named character or anything?
I have done, yeah. I did a competition a little while ago to raise some funds for a dog charity that I adopted my dog from, and did an auction to let the winner be the main character in the book. And then she got obviously a signed copy of the book and some merchandise as well that went with it. So yes, I have done that. It is quite difficult though, because if you're writing a character that's also a real person, it does kind of make you think twice before you make that person do like something horrible or act in a certain way, because you're always thinking, oh, well, what if they don't like that? Or so it is a difficult thing to do.
I think it's having been written into books by people. I don't. I
Yeah.
think it's fine. I think it's like quite nice to sort of see yourself do something like that you would never do in real life in fiction.
Yeah, even if they did something really horrible.
Yeah, yeah. Cool.
No, well, bear that in mind.
Simon said, "Do you think people ever realise when a character is based on them, or do they not see elements of themselves? Has anyone got a
I
character?"
don't I don't think there's many people in my real life that actually read my books. I mean, certainly not the romance ones. I, would struggle to look people in the eye if they did. The crime books, yeah, again, I don't think I've. There's been a few people who've read them, but the majority of my readers aren't people that I know, so I don't worry too much about that happening.
Have you ever bumped into someone though who has read your books and is like, "Oh, I'm a massive fan"?
Yes, yeah. Funnily enough, so I did an author signing, which was for my romance pen name, and this was in Cardiff. Went up there, obviously, with all my romance books, was talking to the organizer, and she had her mum and dad there who was helping to set up and all that kind of thing. And I was chatting away to the dad, and I was like, "Oh, so do you read any of these books?" And he was like, "No, no, I don't read these books at all. That's not my thing. I like crime books." And I was like, "All right, well, what are you reading at the moment?" And he said, "Oh, actually, I'm reading this book at the moment, the Erica Swift series by MK Farrar." And I was like, "That's me!" And he couldn't believe it. He was like, "Oh my God!" So the next time I went and did a signing with the same organizer, I went and took him some signed books up. But yeah, that was fun.
That's really awesome.
Yeah, yeah, it's good.
What have I got now? Simon said, "I've been characters and let the author run with me." I'm down for it. I think it's great. So I think I'm a baddie in someone's book, and I'm definitely like a man-eating pathologist in someone's book. Not like literally cannibalist, but
Yeah.
uh, kind of like you know would date anyone sort of person, which is quite entertaining because
You live vicariously through them.
yeah, living very vicariously through them. I am very married, so like it's not me in real life. Um, Sarah said if you need a rescue staffy in your book, she has Domino,
Oh, I like staffies. I had a
and
staffy cross last night.
Domino's adorable, so definitely
Oh.
is be very very well written into books. I've met him; he's lovely.
Oh, cute.
Um, I think pets as well are fun because you can come up with really cool pet names for things.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, like I said, I don't really write pets into it so much. I think as well, with the pet thing with the characters is I feel like if something bad happened to the character and like they were kidnapped and taken away, the whole time I'd just be thinking, but who's feeding the cat? And like I'd probably be more worried about what was happening with the cat or the dog that was stuck at home with no one to look after it than I would be about the character.
Do you what was going to ask you next? So you talked about doing some events before. What author events have you got booked this year?
So I'm doing a big signing up in Edinburgh in September, which I'm signing as Marissa Farrar. So that's called Rare, which is the romance authors and readers events. Um, and then there's another one in London next year, and then hopefully New York. I'm keeping my fingers crossed that I get an invite to that. So
That sounds great. Sam said Mike Craven said he gets more messages about Edgar the dog than Tilly the pet info.
yeah, I believe that.
I think people checking that like Edgar's safe. I think he writes it in now. Like
To
when
make sure that the dog's fine.
yeah, I'm sure I've read it in a few of his books, and I'm sure he said it that like he actually writes like because someone messaged him once and was like, "What happens with Edgar?" And he's like, "Now he writes it, so if he's going off, he goes and like takes Edgar to his neighbor or like
Yeah,
something like that, so he's well looked after."
yeah, yeah. You definitely need to have somebody that you can like palm the dog off on in case
Yeah.
something bad got happened.
And Sarah says when she reads the book, she thinks about real life, like cooking, etc.
Or that nobody ever cooks or
I guess, yeah. Oh, I don't know. Maybe she'll expand on that, but yeah, maybe. Do you ever think that
Mm.
sometimes you read a book and it's like been so long and you're like you've not like done
No one's
any kind
eaten
of
anything,
normal, like you've not
used the
eaten
bathroom or
anything. Yeah, like
it's
just
like
listening.
I used to watch like 24. Did you ever watch that? Jack Bauer's 24. It was a really good series that was on years ago. And it was like every episode was like an hour of his day-to-day life. And yeah, he never ate anything or went to the toilet or did anything normal in the entire series. And yeah, but I do tend to write in because I um found the family life is quite important. So I do tend to write in meals and that they're stopping for something to eat and things like that. I'm quite conscious of it. I guess because I'm a feeder in real life as well. I tend to do all the cooking and stuff at home. So yeah, maybe it plays on my mind a bit more than
I'm always
normal.
curious, especially because there's like a sort of thing of like foodie like books and stuff now as well. And if you're like into cooking and that, if you wrote like that into your book, would you do like recipes alongside? I know people have done like cocktail recipes
Yeah,
and
I
things that go
haven't.
with their
No,
books.
I don't think they haven't taken that bigger um part of the story for me to do that. I think that's more kind of like cozy crime and stuff. I could see that working for. But I've never written quite cozy. My stuff's way too dark to to ever fit into that category. There you go. There's another genre that I've never written and probably will never write. Cozy crime.
Would you not be tempted to go into it?
No, because
No.
I like the death and murder and the gore, I suppose, and you can't get away with writing that kind of thing in cozy.
Yeah, I guess. You can have it kind of off screen, I think, can't you?
Yeah, yeah, but mine's definitely my style of writing is definitely on screen.
Would you? What's the new big thing is like romantasy, isn't it? Which is like romance and fantasy, I think, mixed. I don't know if I've read one yet, but that seems to be like the new big genre. Would you be
Yeah,
tempted to dabble
I
in
have
that?
written romantasy. I've got a 3-book series which is like a dragon, real dragons, not like shifters, series, which is kind of like a bit of an epic story of a girl who has to cross a country and then gets sent to like a magic land, if you like. It's a lot darker than I'm describing. There's a lot of sort of like dark fantasy and horror elements that come into play with the series. But yeah, that's a 3-book series. So book one's free actually on most sites, which is through a dragon's eyes. So yes, I've done that genre.
So for someone, this a question I often ask authors when I'm watching these chats, and not just hosting them, if they've written a lot of books, is if someone's watching this and has never read you, they've never ever picked up a Marissa Farrar book. Obviously, we want to correct that. That's why you're here.
Yeah.
So where would you recommend that they start?
So with um, my crime books, definitely The Eye Thief. That's is probably the book that is most me, is most my style. And also, obviously, it's a long series, so I'd like to think if people start on it, they'll keep going. Um, for my Marissa Farrar books, ooh, that's a bit of a harder one. Um, Probably a series called Dark Codes, which is like a kind of secret government agency sort of FBI story about a girl who's kidnapped by 5 men, and the kind of yeah, and the story evolves from that. So
Would you write? I'm just thinking, like, you've got that kind of FBI thriller esque thing.
mhm.
Is that something you'd be tempted to do in the crime? Like, take that thoroughly thriller?
Yeah, I have again, I think I've got quite a lot of thriller elements that come into play. So I've written a US based series just recently. I'm just going to hold a book up. So that one, wrong way, The Scorch Girls. So that's a US based thriller, not the FBI, but the US Police Department. Um, and yeah, it's definitely got a lot of thriller elements. It's not the FBI side of things.
Is there anywhere? So you inspired me with your US based thriller. Is there anywhere you would like to travel to do the research to set a book?
Um, I'm going out actually. This summer. So my one half of my family is Finnish, so they live in Finland. But I've never actually been over there, and we're going over there this summer to go and stay with them. And we're going out to the lakes, so quite remote Finnish countryside. And I'm looking forward to doing that because I've got an idea of the story that I want to write in that location, but not during the summer. It'll be like a winter kind of snowed in thing. But again, it's been going through my head for a long time. So it'll be nice to sort of see the place for real and see if I can make the story work.
I'm slightly jealous of you. Finland's amazing.
Yeah,
I've
I'm
only
looking
been
forward
to
to it.
I've only been to Helsinki, but I would love to travel further into Finland.
Oh, okay. So that's where my brother's family are, is in Helsinki. So we're going to fly out, but then we're going to rent a motorhome while we're there and do a bit of traveling in the motorhome.
Exciting.
Yeah,
That's
it'll
amazing.
be
Oh,
good.
we're on mute apparently.
Yep.
Mm, I don't
We're
think
both
we are.
on mute. No, it's not showing mute up for me either.
Yeah, it's not showing mute up for me. I wonder if Sarah's just dipped and lost some sound. Sam can hear us, which is good to know. Sam said you've got a good circle of authors around you. Has that been an important part of learning what works and what to do if things go wrong?
Absolutely. Yeah, I probably wouldn't be doing what I'm doing without the support of my author friends. They're brilliant. Like when I release a book, I can pretty much guarantee that they'll all share it and put me in their newsletters and share me to their readers. And it's like a bit of a sort of author ecosystem, if you like, where everyone helps everyone else out, and if we've got ideas on things, we'll share it, and share what's working and what isn't, and if we're having a bad time of things, then someone's always going to be there to kind of give you a bit of a boost. So yeah, my author friends are probably some of my closest friends now, like in any aspect. So yeah, I wouldn't want to be without them.
I'm interested in how you get on with doing like author kind of TikToks and things, because I think you're the first person, definitely in quite a long time, that we've had on who's doing sort of really venturing into that.
Yeah. So for my crime TikToks, I tend to base it more on the book, if you like. So I'll do shots of the book and what the book's about, as opposed to it being me talking to the camera. But for my Marissa Farrar stuff, it tends to be more me on screen. I definitely haven't found my way with the crime TikTok in the same way that I have with the romance TikTok. There's a much bigger audience for romance over on Book Talk. But I do believe that there is definitely an audience for the crime books as well, which is why I carry on posting, even if there aren't many people out there watching. And I enjoy it, to be honest. It's just like since I started up the shop in particular, I feel like the connection that I have with the readers has grown a lot more. Whereas before, when I was just posting stuff that was just, I don't know, like a page flip of a book with some text on top, I was missing that connection. Whereas now I feel like they know me and I get to know them a bit, like the commenting and things like that. And then when I post books out to them, then they'll post their TikToks and tag me in it and show how excited they are to receive things. And I love that side of things, because I put a lot of care into what I'm doing and how I'm packaging things up and the little extras that they get. And it's really fun to like see how excited people are when they receive their boxes and they open them and they film it all. And yeah, it's fun. I enjoy it. And I think that's a big thing. If you're not enjoying something, then that like translates onto the screen, and people don't follow it so much. So yeah, it's good. It's enjoyable.
What do your family think of your author careers? Do you like they help you out with the TikToks? Do they help you do? You tell how old I am, can't you? Do they help you out with TikToks? That's like the one. The Snapstagrams.
So you'd think that the teenagers, because my girls are 17, 14, and then one that's nearly 11, and you'd think that the teenagers would absolutely jump on the fact that I would pay them to help make TikToks for me and stuff, but trying to get them to do anything is near impossible. My middle girl was really good helping me box stuff up, because when I have a lot of orders, it does get a bit overwhelming sometimes. So she's been great coming in and helping, but I do have to pay them. They don't do it out of the goodness of their hearts.
That's really interesting. Yeah, because I thought they'd be like, "Oh, I've got an author for a mum. Do you ever go in and do like author talks to schools and things?" No.
No. Um,
I'd feel like if I was like you're one of your kids' teachers, I'd be like, "Oh, I know an author. They could come and talk to school."
well, it's probably because of the dark romance aspect that they probably think, well, it's not age, what I write isn't age appropriate. So yeah, I think that probably keeps people away. Not that anyone's ever said anything to me or anything like that. And also, I think the kids would be embarrassed as hell if I went into their schools. I already have like some of them would go to me, "Oh my God, my friend found you on TikTok today," and and then I'm like trying to block them. I don't want my kids' friends following me. Definitely not.
Fair enough. Um, I don't. I think it's quite cool. My parents still get, because I'm a teacher. My parents still get a kick out of like coming to school. They're like, "We're gonna come and get you from school." I'm like, "I'm bored."
Aw.
Like,
That's nice though. Yeah. Yeah, I
It's
think teenagers will be mortified by anything their parents do. And yeah, in particular, their parents posting on TikTok is probably definitely up there in mortification levels.
not a thing we had when we were young, is it? So it's not like
No, I didn't even have a phone.
you didn't have these problems with like social media and stuff with your parents. Um,
No, they never knew where we were.
I started a Facebook group for my parent. Sam says she
Mm.
thinks kids are immune to being embarrassed by her at this point, or her kids are immune to being embarrassed by her.
Fair enough. Yeah.
It's a yeah. I mean, I can't TikTok. We tried setting it up in COVID. It's not for me.
Yeah. Well, that's it. If something's not working for you, then there's no point in doing it. But like I said, that it's been working for me. So yeah, I've been enjoying it and finding
We've
lots of
seen
new readers.
does seem to work for a lot of authors, and like you say, particularly the romance side, because you
Mm.
see in bookstores and things, don't you, everywhere, like, oh,
Oh
it's
yeah,
like big on
it's
this.
literally made some authors' careers. Book Talk has, you know. I mean, I'd love for something to take off like that. Um, so just keep plugging away and hope that it does.
So we've talked about what you've got coming out at the moment. Have you ever had any media interest in any of your books?
Not really media, no. No, I have had so one of my books has been picked up by a script writer in America and has been pitched to a production company. So I'm waiting to hear back from that. Um, but that's about as exciting as it's got. And I'm not holding my breath at all. I know that these things you know are difficult to get into, but yeah, it would be fun if to have something pop up on Netflix one day.
Oh, we've got your romance side of books that you've gone out and done book events for, but do you do any crime ones? Are you going to any crime festivals or anything like that?
So with the crime stuff, I find that it tends to be more traditional kind of um it tends to be more traditional authors and traditional publishers that are behind it all. So I haven't seen any like big indie author signings for crime authors. I think, unless I'm completely missing the mark on something. But yeah, I haven't seen any. Maybe it's a gap in the market.
Maybe there is. I
Mm.
think there is a aspect of like mixing at a crime festival, even if you're an indie author, that can sort of still get your name out.
Mm.
You know what I mean? I've discovered authors from going to things like the Harrogate Crime Festival and just meeting them.
Yeah.
Tom Simpson's a perfect example. He's in our group, and I met him at Harrogate, and he was doing Harrogate Crime Festival as an attendee, but with a T-shirt on with his book and a
Yeah.
QR code. It was like scan me, and it took you to his Amazon. And
That's a good idea.
he's just such a nice guy. He came across like really well, and you were like, he kind of was selling his book to people because he was
Yeah.
like doing really well. So I think there is like that aspect of it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
That
sneaking
it's
in.
not. Yeah, I mean, it'd be lovely if like the really big crime festivals sort of mixed it up and had independent and other people as well. But
Yeah. I think things are definitely swaying that way more. There's definitely more acceptance now than there ever has been. Um, so yeah, it'd be nice if they did sort of bring in some indies, but obviously there's indie crime authors that are way bigger than I am, who I'm sure would get the invites first.
I know Bloody Scotland does some of their like their debut and their prize long list. They will accept. They have indie authors and like really small publishers and stuff
Yeah.
on,
Okay.
which is good.
It's
Although
good
they
to
do have
know.
rules about you being in Scotland, so
Oh, yeah.
it's
Literally, it couldn't be further away.
no, it is good that it's good to know that there is like they're a big kind of festival, but they do like I've interviewed people who've been on the shortlist and stuff and who are self-published and
Okay.
like really little presses and stuff, and like I think it's really good that they kind of have that like encompassing
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
which is great. There's a lot of
Yeah,
people that
we'll
Summer's
keep
very
an eye out. Maybe it'll evolve, I'm sure.
Sam has asked you her favourite question. She says, when projects go ahead for a screen adaptation, who would you play if you could choose any character at all?
Who would I play?
Yeah.
Or who would I get to play my
No, who
characters?
would you play? We don't like asking the who would you get to
Who
play the
would
character.
I play?
We like to flip the question here at UKCBC. We don't ask you these easy questions.
um, I mean, I'm a terrible actor. I'd feel a bit guilty for anyone I put in my place. Um, oh, see, I'd quite like if it was ever made into a series, I'd quite like to be the detective in the Scorch Girls. I liked her. She is like a bit of a hard case, if you like. She likes a beer and she doesn't take any crap from anybody. Um, so I think I'd go for her. She's called Lowry Winters, Detective Lowry Winters. So yes, I'm going for her.
Good answer. And if you didn't want to act, you could always do the Lee Child. I think Stephanie Meyer did it in Twilight, didn't she? She's like, be the author in the cafe.
Yeah, a little cameo.
Yeah, like an Alfred Hitchcock style.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
appear
I
somewhere.
think that would probably work better for me than attempting to act. It would just be embarrassing for everybody.
Do you have all your books on audio as well?
Not all of them. I've got the Crime After Crime series, which is the one that I do with Mel Comley. That's all on audio. And I think the first 5 or so books of Erica Swift are on audio. So that got picked up by a audiobook publisher. So they're currently working their way through those. And I think the other one I've got is the lockdown thriller 21 days. That's in audio as well. So not all of them, but some.
Which is good. So open to like people who like to read audiobooks. Would you ever make a graphic novel of one of your books?
Oh yeah, I'd love it. I'd love to do that actually. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be able to draw it. I can't draw. I can draw as well as I act. But yeah, definitely. Yeah, that'd be fun. I'd like to do something like that. You see it in romance a lot now as well. That people are creating graphic novels using like Kickstarter and platforms like that to launch them. So yeah, I think that'd be good to do.
Yeah, I love it. I love graphic novels. It's one of my favourite questions to ask people for that reason.
Ah.
Finishes off with a reminder of what people are going to go away and buy. You've got any books to show?
Ooh, let's have a look. So we have got this one. So Kill Chase. This is my Detective Ryan Chase series. Book 1. So this book is free on most ebook platforms. So Kindle, but also iBooks and Kobo and Google Play. So if you want to get started on one of the series, this is a good place to start. I'm going to hold up this one. So this one on his grave is one of my standalone psychological thrillers and is on TikTok Shop. So if you want to find me on TikTok Shop, I am MK Farrar author. They're available to order, and I sign all my books and send them out with stickers and a pen and some other bits and pieces. And then finally, of course, the Eye Thief, which is book 1 in my currently 13 book crime series, which is set in London. Yes, how is that?
Marvelous. And all that's left to say is thank you. Thanks for joining
No,
us. It's been a pleasure.
thank you for having me.
You're welcome back anytime.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm sorry for the child yelling downstairs.
It's fine. Don't worry about it. Used to children